Hey everyone, welcome back. When she realizes you're no longer chasing, master the Stoic mindset to regain control. You know that moment when you finally stop chasing, stop texting first, stop being available at her beck and call, and suddenly everything shifts. Her energy changes. The dynamic flips. And for the first time in months, maybe years, you're the one in control. But here's what most guys don't understand. This isn't about games or manipulation. This is about something far more powerful. This is about mastering the ancient philosophy that has guided emperors, warriors, and wise men for over 2,000 years. I'm talking about Stoicism. I'm going to show you exactly what happens when she realizes you're no longer chasing, why it works on such a deep psychological level, and most importantly, how to master the Stoic mindset that will transform not just your relationships, but your entire life. If you're ready to stop being the guy who's always chasing and start being the man who's worth chasing, hit that subscribe button and let's dive deep into this life-changing philosophy. Let me tell you about Marcus. 6 months ago, Marcus was that guy we all know. Constantly texting, always available, bending over backward for a woman who barely acknowledged his existence. Sound familiar? He'd send good morning texts that went unanswered. He'd plan elaborate dates that got canceled last minute. He'd rearrange his entire schedule just to grab 30 minutes of her time. Then something changed. Marcus discovered Stoicism. Now, I'm not talking about becoming cold or emotionless. That's not what Stoicism is about. Real Stoicism is about mastering yourself so completely that external circumstances, including other people's behavior, can't shake your inner peace or self-worth. And the transformation? It was remarkable. Within weeks, the woman who used to ignore his texts was double texting him. The plans that used to get canceled were now being suggested by her. The power dynamic had completely reversed. But here's the beautiful part. Marcus didn't even care anymore. He'd become something much more valuable than a guy trying to win someone's attention. He'd become a man who understood his own worth. Drop a comment below if you've ever been in Marcus's situation. I guarantee you're not alone. Chapter 1. The Psychology Behind the Chase. Before we dive into the Stoic principles, we need to understand why chasing pushes people away and why stopping the chase draws them back. This isn't just relationship advice. This is human psychology at its core, the scarcity principle. Think about it this way. What do you value more? Something that's always available, or something that's rare and hard to obtain? When you're constantly chasing, you're essentially telling the other person that you're always available, always accessible, always there. You become predictable. And predictability, while comforting in long-term relationships, is the enemy of attraction in the early stages. The psychological reactance theory. Here's where it gets interesting. When someone realizes you're no longer chasing, their brain actually triggers what psychologists call reactance. It's the same psychological mechanism that makes us want something more when we're told we can't have it. I remember coaching a client. Let's call him David. David had been pursuing the same woman for 8 months. 8 months of being her emotional support, her reliable friend, her go-to guy for everything except romance. The moment David pulled back and started focusing on his own life, something fascinating happened. She started reaching out more, started asking where he was, started getting curious about his life in ways she never had before. The validation-seeking loop. Most people, whether they admit it or not, derive some sense of validation from knowing someone is interested in them. When that validation source suddenly disappears, it creates a psychological gap that demands to be filled. But here's where most guys mess up. They see this shift and immediately go back to their old chasing behavior. They haven't actually changed. They've just temporarily withdrawn to manipulate a response. That's not Stoicism. That's just another form of being controlled by external circumstances. Real Stoicism goes much deeper. It's about fundamental transformation, not temporary tactics. Chapter 2. The Stoic Foundation. Understanding what you can control. The foundation of Stoicism can be summed up in one simple but profound principle, taught by the philosopher Epictetus. Some things are within our power, while others are not. Let's break this down in the context of relationships and attraction. What you can control: your actions and responses, your personal development, your emotional state, your choices and decisions, your standards and boundaries, your focus and attention, your energy investment. What you cannot control: other people's feelings, whether someone likes you back, how quickly someone responds to texts, other people's choices, past events, future outcomes, what others think of you. I learned this lesson the hard way. Years ago, I was obsessed with controlling outcomes in my relationships. I'd analyze every text, every interaction, trying to figure out the perfect thing to say or do to get the response I wanted. It was exhausting. And ironically, the harder I tried to control outcomes, the less attractive I became. The Stoic shift. When you truly internalize this principle, something profound happens. You stop trying to control her responses and start focusing on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts healthy relationships. You stop asking, what do I need to do to make her like me? And start asking, what kind of person do I want to become? The paradox of attraction. Here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop trying to control whether someone likes you, you become infinitely more attractive. Why? Because you're operating from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, confidence rather than neediness. Right now, think about a situation where you're trying to control an outcome with someone. Write it down. Now, using the Stoic framework, identify what parts of that situation you can actually control versus what you're trying to control but can't. This simple exercise will change your entire perspective. Chapter 3. The Discipline of Desire. Mastering Your Wants. The Stoics taught that suffering comes from wanting things to be different than they are. In relationships, this translates to suffering when someone doesn't respond the way we want them to. The modern dating trap. Modern dating culture has created an environment where people are constantly seeking validation through likes, matches, texts, and responses. We've become addicted to the dopamine hit of reciprocated interest. But what happens when that validation doesn't come? Anxiety, frustration, desperation, and desperately needy behavior that pushes people away. Picture this. You send a text to someone you're interested in. Hours pass. No response. What happens in your mind? Most people start spiraling. Why hasn't she responded? Did I say something wrong? Is she with someone else? Should I send another text? The Stoic approach is radically different. A Stoic sends the text and then completely lets go of the outcome. The text was sent authentically, expressing something genuine. Whether it gets a response or not is completely outside of your control. The discipline of desire in action. This doesn't mean you don't want things. It means you don't attach your peace of mind to getting them. You can desire connection, relationship, love, but you don't need them to be happy or complete. You're already complete. Relationships enhance your life. They don't define it. Here's a simple framework I teach. Identify the desire. What do you want from this person, situation? Separate the want from the need. Can you be happy without getting this outcome? Focus on your part. What can you do authentically regardless of the response? Release attachment. Let go of controlling the outcome. The attraction of non-attachment. When you're not attached to outcomes, you show up more authentically. You're not performing or trying to say the right thing. You're just being yourself. And authenticity is incredibly attractive. I once coached a guy who was terrified of rejection. He'd spend hours crafting the perfect message, analyzing every word. When he learned to approach interactions with non-attachment, something amazing happened. His conversations became more natural, more interesting, more attractive. Why? Because he wasn't trying to control the outcome. He was just being genuine. Chapter 4. The Discipline of Action. Becoming Someone Worth Chasing. Now we get to the heart of the transformation. Stoicism isn't about becoming passive or withdrawn. It's about taking massive action in the areas you can control, primarily your own development and character. The Stoic virtues in modern context. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues. Let's see how they apply to becoming someone worth chasing. 1. Wisdom, Sophia. Understanding human nature and psychology. Learning from experiences and mistakes. Developing emotional intelligence. continuous self-improvement. 2. Justice, dikaiosune, treating others with respect and fairness, having integrity in your actions, being reliable and trustworthy, standing up for your values. 3. Courage, Andrea, facing rejection without being devastated, having difficult conversations when necessary, taking risks for personal growth, being authentic even when it's uncomfortable. R. Temperance, sophrosine, self-control in emotions and actions, moderation in all things, discipline in personal habits, balance in relationships. Let me tell you about James. When I first met him, he was the definition of a nice guy, agreeable, always available, never challenging anyone. He wondered why women saw him as a friend, but never as a romantic partner. We focused on developing his Stoic virtues. Wisdom. James started studying psychology, reading about human nature, and developing a deeper understanding of himself and others. Justice. He began setting boundaries, saying no to requests that didn't align with his values, and treating himself with the same respect he gave others. Courage. James started having more authentic conversations, expressing his opinions even when they might be unpopular, and taking calculated risks in his personal life. Temperance. He developed discipline in his fitness routine, his career development, and his emotional responses. The result. Within 6 months, James was a completely different person, not because he was trying to attract someone specific, but because he was becoming the best version of himself. And yes, the woman who used to see him as just a friend suddenly started seeing him in a completely different light. But by then, James had options. He'd become someone worth chasing. Which of these 4 virtues do you most need to work on? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. The daily Stoic practice. Here's what I recommend for daily practice. Morning reflection. Ask yourself, what can I control today? What actions can I take to become a better version of myself? Evening review. What did I do well today? What can I improve? What was outside my control that I need to let go of? Weekly assessment. Am I becoming the kind of person I would want to be around? Am I growing in wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance? Chapter 5. The moment of recognition. When she realizes you've changed. Now let's talk about what happens when she realizes you're no longer chasing. This is where the rubber meets the road, and where most guys either succeed or fail spectacularly. The initial confusion. The first thing that happens is confusion. She's used to a certain dynamic where you're always available, always responsive, always accommodating. When that suddenly changes, it creates cognitive dissonance. Let's say you used to text her every morning. You'd always be the first to reach out, always keeping the conversation going. Then suddenly you stop. Day 1. She might not even notice. Day 2. She might think you're busy. Day 3. She might start wondering why you haven't texted. Day 4. She might actually reach out first. The testing phase. This is where it gets interesting. Once she realizes you've changed, she'll likely test the change. She might reach out with low-effort messages to see if you'll jump back into old patterns. Create some drama to see if you'll drop everything to help. Flirt with other people to see if you'll get jealous. Try to guilt-trip you about being different or distant. This is where most guys fail. They see her testing and think, it's working. She's paying attention to me, so they revert to their old chasing behavior. Don't make this mistake. The Stoic response to testing. A Stoic doesn't get pulled into games or tests. You maintain your new standards not because you're trying to manipulate a response, but because you've genuinely changed. When she sends a low-effort text, you respond authentically but don't carry the conversation. When she creates drama, you don't rush to fix it. When she flirts with others, you genuinely don't care because you're focused on your own growth. When she tries to guilt-trip you, you acknowledge her feelings without changing your behavior. One of my clients, Alex, had been chasing the same woman for over a year. When he stopped and started focusing on his own life, she began reaching out more frequently. But instead of meaningful conversations, she was sending things like, hey, and what's up? Low effort. Messages designed to get his attention. The old Alex would have jumped on these messages, trying to turn them into long conversations. The new Alex would respond politely but briefly, then get back to his own life. Within 2 weeks, her messages changed. She started asking about his life, his work, his interests. She started putting in effort because she realized he was no longer going to do all the conversational heavy lifting, the shift in dynamics. When you maintain your Stoic principles through the testing phase, the entire dynamic shifts. She goes from being the one who receives attention to being the one who seeks it. But here's the crucial part. By this point, you're not doing it for her attention anymore. You're doing it because you've genuinely become someone who values himself. Chapter 6. Maintaining the Stoic mindset long-term. The real test of your Stoic development isn't what happens in the first few weeks. It's what happens months down the line, when the novelty wears off and old patterns try to reassert themselves. The regression trap. Human beings are creatures of habit. Even after we've made positive changes, there's always a pull to revert to old, comfortable patterns. In relationships, this might mean gradually becoming more available than you should be, starting to seek validation through their responses again, losing focus on your own goals and development, becoming reactive to their moods and behavior. Michael was one of my success stories. He'd completely transformed his approach to relationships, developed genuine self-confidence, and attracted the woman he'd been interested in for months. But 6 months into the relationship, he started slipping back into old patterns. He became overly accommodating, started prioritizing her needs over his own goals, and gradually lost the attractive qualities that had drawn her to him in the first place. The relationship ended, and Michael learned a valuable lesson. Stoicism isn't something you practice for a few months and then forget. It's a lifelong philosophy, the daily Stoic maintenance. Here's how to maintain your Stoic mindset long-term. 1. Regular self-assessment. Weekly check-ins with yourself. Am I acting from a place of abundance or scarcity? Am I trying to control outcomes I can't control? Am I maintaining my standards and boundaries? Am I continuing to grow and develop? 2. Continuous learning. Read Stoic philosophy regularly. Study human psychology and relationships. Learn from your mistakes and experiences. Seek feedback from trusted friends or mentors. 3. Physical and mental discipline. Maintain your fitness routine. Continue pursuing your goals and interests. Practice mindfulness and self-reflection. Keep challenging yourself to grow. 4. Relationship boundaries. Don't lose yourself in any relationship. Maintain your independence and individuality. Keep your own goals and priorities. Remember that you're complete on your own. Set up a weekly Stoic review in your calendar. Every Sunday, spend 30 minutes reflecting on the week through a Stoic lens. What did you handle well? What could you improve? What patterns are you falling into? The long-term attraction. When you maintain these principles long-term, something beautiful happens. You become genuinely attractive not just to one person, but to quality people in general. You become someone who others want to be around, not because you're trying to be attractive, but because you've become a genuinely high-value person. The abundance mindset. True Stoicism leads to genuine abundance. You're not focused on getting one specific person to like you. You're focused on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts healthy, fulfilling relationships. Chapter 7. Beyond Romance, the Stoic Life. While we've focused on relationships and attraction, the principles we've discussed extend far beyond romance. Stoicism is a complete philosophy for living a fulfilling life. Career and professional life. The same principles apply to your career. Focus on what you can control, your effort, skills, attitude. Don't attach your self-worth to outcomes, promotions, recognition, salary. Maintain high standards and integrity. Continue developing your capabilities. Friendships and social life. In friendships, don't chase people who don't reciprocate effort. Be a good friend without expecting anything in return. Maintain your boundaries and standards. Focus on quality over quantity. Personal development. For personal growth, set goals based on your values, not external validation. Embrace challenges as opportunities to grow. Learn from setbacks without being defeated by them. Maintain discipline in your daily habits. I want to end with the story of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and perhaps the most famous Stoic philosopher. He was literally the most powerful man in the world, yet he spent time each day writing reflections on how to be a better person. His journal, which we now call Meditations, shows a man constantly working on himself, constantly trying to align his actions with his values, constantly focused on what he could control rather than what he couldn't. If the emperor of Rome needed daily Stoic practice, so do we. So where does this leave you? If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of 90% of people. You understand that true attraction isn't about chasing or games or manipulation. It's about becoming someone worth chasing. You understand that Stoicism isn't about being emotionless or cold. It's about being so emotionally mature and self-aware that you can't be shaken by external circumstances. You understand that the moment she realizes you're no longer chasing isn't the end goal. It's just the beginning of your transformation into someone who naturally attracts healthy, fulfilling relationships. Your next steps: start your daily Stoic practice. Morning reflection, evening review. Focus on the 4 virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, temperance. Identify what you can and cannot control in your current situation. Take action on your own development and goals. Maintain your standards regardless of how others respond. If this video has helped you understand the power of the Stoic mindset, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know. What's one area of your life where you've been trying to control? Outcomes you can't control? Which of the 4 Stoic virtues do you most need to work on? What's one action you're going to take this week to focus on your own development? And if you want more content like this, deep dives into philosophy, psychology, and personal development, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Remember, the goal isn't to get someone to chase you. The goal is to become someone worth chasing, not just in relationships, but in life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.